Tell us a little bit about what you think is the most important thing on the way to COP27. It can be something that builds on COP26, or it can be something that COP26 hasn't offered, but that really needs to be there for you from your perspective. And I'll go to Kathy because you've been waiting a while. Kathy, what do you think from your perspective, really needs to happen between now and COP27?
Well, a couple things. There's going to be some elections around the world. Brazil, various governments might change. My own province of Ontario, and I think all of us need to elevate the conversations within our own communities, and I really believe we need to help the politicians. I think that's how we're going to get the best outcomes at COP27, COP28, COP29. Start looking in our own backyards and just work with those politicians who are listening to us, no matter what stripe. And one other thing I would like to see more specifically in the lead ups to the next COP is for governments around the world to start gender mainstreaming their climate policies. I was in a couple sessions about women and climate change, and it is deeply missing. And I think a lot more consideration of women might bring some balance to the system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. Very important. Raj, what do you think? What really needs to happen between now and COP27 from your perspective?
I think we need some way to find more indigenous voices being represented. It of course depends on our country. For example, we have the second largest number of indigenous peoples in the entire world, but I don't think we have enough representations. And especially people among mountain, riparian, coastal communities who are every day losing their lives and livelihoods are not there. I did not see anybody. So that is one big thing that should be implemented. And secondly, I think a lot of I believe climate education is climate empowerment, and a lot of our climate activists need to be empowered. So yeah, climate literacy, climate education is something that all the countries should focus on, so that we have a informed army of people devoted to making change everywhere, not just at the COP. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj. So important. Rodney, what do you say needs to happen between now and COP27?
I think, Joe, Article 6 would always say about action for climate empowerment. And I think this has been the greatest gap of all the COPs. And I would like to agree with Kathy to elevate the conversation. I would like to add, to elevate conversation and action, we need to dive deeper down to the communities. So we go lower to elevate conversation and action. But between COP26 and COP27, this 1 year, I hope, and it is my wish, that there should be local COPs. Local COPs from the local communities up to the provincial, regional, and national, sub-national COPs to talk about all this, so that action for climate empowerment under Article 6 of the Paris Agreement will be operationalized. And as you know, it will be grassroots and people powered by grassroots movements and peoples who, at the end of the day, will be affected by all these decisions at the COPs. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney. Satish, how do you what do you have to say about what you really want to see between now and next year?
Yeah, these are all great points. And may I add that are the ones that have been affected and also leading action, like I think that one thing that I think that resonated with me, and I was glad that it was a major motto in the COP, was like nothing about us without us. So I think that bringing more representation, from indigenous like youth and also islanders into these spaces is super important. Perhaps we should have a bigger delegation at the fossil fuel. And then I think that in that note, I think like I would like to see kind of the spirit of action for climate empowerment being permeated in all of the process of the UNFCCC, having both, like at the national and subnational level being informed by what is happening at these COPs. And then something that I was talking with the office of the mayor of Paris, and they were like, well, like national governments think, but cities and subnational governments deliver. So I think that we should really elevate those at all governance levels to make sure that climate action is actually being implemented at the level and scale that it is supposed to be. So of course, like I want to see robust action for climate empowerment action plan. And I think that we need to really connect the dots for people and bring into why it's so important to be talking about human rights, to be talking about indigenous rights in these arenas. I think like for other, maybe for developed countries, it's hard to grasp how dangerous it is to be an activist in our countries. So that's something that we should make the connections to them and maybe remind them of the conventions that they have already signed and that actually make these rights for us to have. So I would love to see all that and definitely keep working in like our countries to enhance their 2030 targets.
Thank you, Isatis. And just, to bring people into a moment from the COP, we had this conversation in Glasgow that when there were efforts to pull human rights out of certain segments of the text, what does that say? It says the places where that's the politics are places where you can't trust what is being promised, right? If you can't protect human rights, how can you enforce any commitment? Kwamrul, did you want to say a final word? Very briefly, but anything that, just a closing word.
Yeah. I think from now on, implementation should get in, because without implementation of the Paris Agreement, we simply can't achieve our goals. So we need to hammer on now on implementation, effective implementation. And for that, we also need to have effective participation of the people in this process, effective participation of the delegations, southern delegations. Yes, 40,000 people went to Glasgow, but how many from the southern countries? So dominance of the richer countries are there. So from now on to Sharm el-Sheikh or Dubai or say Eastern Europe COP, we must ensure broader participation from the southern countries and also grassroots people and grassroots voice, their participation in determining community national plan, regional plan, subnational plan, and national plan. Then also in the global architecture, their voice should be heard. Voice of the youth and also enterprising people should be, and then also the knowledge endowment, knowledge management, intellectual input should be mobilized, marshaled. For that, education, awareness raising is of paramount importance. Thank you.